Hey, and we're back with another episode of Befriend Your Mind. Can you believe this is already the last week of January? Where did the month go? Why does time feel like it's flying by so fast? This week, I wanted to focus on speaking up. As you know, this January, I focus a lot about this just be me and not get into a whole vision board and resolution narrative we tend to get into every year. See, this last year I was exhausted of constantly feeling that I have to keep in this whole self learning, self development loop. And one of the running strands that was in business or in organizations was this constant feeling of being exhausted from doing things that no one really wanted to do, and a certain resignation that led to the desire of not even wanting to speak up or argue, just more of a internalizing it and just let this be. Now, I'm very familiar about this fear of speaking up. In fact, for many years, when I was extremely successful as a businesswoman on an island, I faced a lot of criticism, jealousy, and envy. And back then, I had no idea how to have a healthy relationship with it. In fact, I internalized it and became very lonely in my marination of criticism, as it were. And I became depressed and almost suicidal. And I just walked away. I gave up a completely successful business because I did not feel I could do this anymore. The criticism had really gotten to me. But I kept feeding the criticism because I felt there was something wrong with me and those criticisms were right, maybe. I did a lot of self development. I read a lot through a lens of a man's eye. And I found myself not agreeing with this idea of constantly having to hustle and change and improve myself. It was like I was telling myself constantly, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. So I had to learn more, learn more. And the more that I did that, the less I felt I had the strength or the courage to speak up. I thought I don't have a right to speak up because I was now going from criticism into an unhealthy relationship of comparison. So the cost of having too much knowledge was really about doubting myself and feeling very misunderstood. I did not know how to communicate effectively. So I changed my narrative and I started focusing on getting comfortable with how to communicate and express myself in different situations. Learning to speak intentionally was the key for me. Now, I noticed that in today, while I've been setting up a communications boutique, I'm now giving podcasts. I want to inspire others to have that same ability, that same strength to speak up and respect themselves as well and know when do they want to speak and when they don't want to speak. Living in a world of so much noise on how you're supposed to be and who you should be, constantly the noise of advice, especially on social media, it can really do something internally and make you disconnect and doubt yourself quite a bit. So I'm not surprised when a lot of people feel imposter syndrome. And then it's always based on some comparison or the other. And for me to understand how to speak intentionally, this is why I speak about doing the Just Be Me board, because over time, I wanted to cut out all the noise and even a vision board, because a vision board was based on all the images that I saw that what was expected of me as an entrepreneur, as a businesswoman, or as that Indian woman who now has to be strong and speak up. I did a Just Be Me board as a way to get to know myself clearly. And in order to do this Just Be Me board, it gave me access to when I wanted to speak and to who I wanted to speak. How do I want to engage in my relationships? And what I had to go undergo is really understanding what was stopping me to speak up in the first place. How do I relax from all the criticism that came to me that I internalized and not let go of it, but to make peace with them? And by making peace with them, that's when I really felt there was a letting go. It was more like, okay, they're now part of my growth. I want to move on with them. And I noticed that in mindfulness, or the way mindfulness is being taught in the Western world, and even about letting go, it's very forceful. Like, there's a whole morality conversation around it that you start feeling really guilty when you can't let go, when you can't feel like you're forgiving people who criticized you in the past. And so shifting my perception or my attitude towards approaching it made a lot of the difference. And this Just Be Me board helped me considerably. So how do I do this Just Be Me board? Well, if you want to have an in-depth and more elaborate way of doing it, I will be sharing out the three-part series next month, and you're very welcome to subscribe to my channels or subscribe to my premium services, and you will be able to get it. But if you say, no, I want to do this on my own, great, try these three things out. The first thing is get a large sheet of paper, a blank page. Now, remember, this is not a vision board. This is not about what you want for tomorrow. It's sort of a reflection of your past years, either your timeline of your life, or you can do it from last year. And the first thing you want to do is reflect and gather images that reflect your different areas of your life. So think about how you felt last year. What were your accomplishments? What were the things that you felt like you failed or disliked or regretted last year? Reflect back on your experiences and your different relationships. How did you show up? And then you divide this page into spiritual, your ego, your relationship, your career, and your family. How are you in these different areas of your life? And by doing that, you're taking a very deeper than surface analysis of how you felt last year. And by getting in touch with the tapestry of your thoughts, your feelings, your experiences, your relationships, and emotions of last year, you're able to reflect back about how you could have done things maybe differently, what surprised you, what did you learn or realize from that moment? More realize than learn, I would say. The next thing is when you're doing this board, you might want to feel like you want to fill the entire board with a lot of things, because if you have a relationship where you judge yourself really harshly, you may feel like you're going to be so hard by putting tons and tons of images. Try to narrow it down. Don't put too much. Just take an image that really resonates and speaks a whole story of itself. Then you want to step back from it. Take some time away from it, because you're going to feel very confused. You're going to have a lot of thoughts. You may want to end up feeling like you need to work on yourself, and it may feel overwhelming with negative emotions. A lot of things can show up, and that's okay. Sitting down with yourself would be the next step. Sitting and centering yourself. When you're very confused, your mind is all over the place. And if you sit for meditation and trying to stop them from thinking, because you're told thoughts are bad, you're going to have more thoughts, trust me. But what you could do is get in touch with your breath. Get in touch with your breath means the moment you breathe in and out, you're almost getting to know it, how it feels when it moves in and how it feels when it moves out of your body. Feel the expansion of your abdomen, your chest when you breathe in. It's almost like you're inviting the breath in and allowing it to move out. And of course, thoughts are going to come in. Lots of them are going to try to come in and take your attention here and take your attention there, and that's fine. The key is don't judge yourself. Just say, oh, I notice I'm thinking again. That's Cool. All right. And just go back to your breath. What you're doing in this centering is you're taking a distance between your thinking and yourself. You're giving yourself some space. This is not the time to process in the sense of making some changes and starting your next to-do list plan. No, you're just observing that thoughts are coming in or not. You might get a realization or two along the way. And when you do, don't stay hooked on it. Just go back to your breathing. It's almost like you're giving yourself a 10-minute break. And there's lots of app. I use my Apple Watch to program my breathing time in, and it does help. Just why not try it out? If you get any realizations from if let's say failures, dislikes, regrets, or disappointments are showing up, like you feel like there's some unfinished business in certain relationships, and you're still trying to make a decision or you're trying to get to an answer, just write them out afterwards. Just make a note of it wherever you feel comfortable and just put it down. You're still not into this, what am I going to fix mode? You're breaking away from feeling the need to constantly fix yourself. You're giving yourself a break when you're doing these breathings. Once you have done that and you write down those little realizations or blurbs that come out, even go for a walk if you need to. Bring time to yourself to do these little relaxations. It's not that it's making you less productive. In fact, what is that? It's helping you organize yourself, your thoughts even better. Because when you go away and you go on a walk, you're not stressing your mind to think productively. You're not putting pressure on your mind. It's like when you sit in front of a computer, at least when I do, and I try to write something, it never comes out. But when I go for a shower, everything is coming out, and I don't have my phone next to me to write it out. But when you go for a walk, it can give you the same effect, and you can have your phone nearby. That's where I write all my content out as well. And by making all that easier for yourself, you're giving yourself that space, and that way you can declutter, you can edit, and you can file all the habits or changes you may want to make or undo. And by doing that, when you feel much more clearer, it's going to help you speak up a little bit more because you're not going to waste your time trying to prove yourself constantly or defend yourself. You start working with your doubts a little easier. And the key is not to get rid of doubts. The key is not to get rid of your failures, your dislikes, because every part of these experiences play a role in your life. They do inform you about something or the other. But having a healthier relationship with your feelings, your thoughts, whether it being in the positive or in the negative, can help you speak much more clearly. So that's it. That's my thoughts for January. If you want to be more visible in your career or in your life, you want to improve your relationships, think about that Just Be Me board. I also have yearly, I do a retreat on the island of Curacao, and it's not this traditional sit mindfulness retreat. It's about getting you back to just connecting with yourself. So if you find yourself disconnected and exhausted from doing all these responsibilities and you just need a break and a conversation to reset and understand the dynamics on how to become friends with yourself again, just check out in my links. All the information is there. And it'd be wonderful to have you on these retreats. Thank you for listening. And I hope you found this useful and beneficial. If you know someone who will gain from this, do share it out with them. Looking forward to speaking to you next week. In the meantime, have a great one.